There he
Craig,
is.
you know when we call you, you must come the first time, not the second time, right?
Yep. Or the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 20th. Get in here, Craig. Do your
Don't
job.
be like your brother.
Do your job.
Do your job.
Hey guys, welcome to the Grumpy Dungeon Masters. I'm Jay.
And I'm exhausted.
Hi, Exhausted. Nice to meet you. Where's Chris at?
He died. He failed some con saves, and he died.
Yeah, he is suffering from 4 levels of exhaustion right now. He's pretty close to death. Can't be here.
I don't know why I'm so tired today. Well, we did do a lot of like house cleaning and stuff like that, and time change.
I know exactly why you're tired.
Why?
Do you want to? Because it's the day after Halloween, so you're actually crashing from the candy.
I didn't have too much candy, you know.
Nobody believes that. No one.
Have that much.
Not
I did have to fight a half giant out of my house, but other than that, that was interesting. Did you know that half giants are impervious to bullets? News to me.
I didn't know that. I'll have to make sure that if I ever allow bullets in my D&D campaign, that they get that. Just immune. Just no damage, impervious.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just firing at 1d6 out of proficiency, and yeah, I wasn't doing shit.
So how many of your neighbors did you have to beat up and take their candy?
Just one. Just one. It would.
Were they at least a teenager?
Oh no, they're all old women or old men.
See, I thought you were talking about like beating up the 8-year-olds.
just sweep the legs and take the candy.
Sweep the leg.
The funniest story that you have from that is taking my daughter to one of the houses that had their porch light on, her ringing the doorbell, and this lady comes to the door and she goes, "Oh no, sorry, I don't have any candy." And my daughter just goes, "Well, can you go get some?" And I bust out laughing in the street. It's Halloween. Don't leave your porch light on. That's rude.
That's the rule. Like I live in the middle of nowhere. I do have some neighbors, and I guess technically we're a subdivision, but nobody's coming trick or treating in this neighborhood. You'd be more likely to find meth dealers here than you would trick or treaters. So we don't worry about that. But if you live in a fucking subdivision like a real neighborhood, understand the rules of Halloween, man. Leave your lights on if you're handing out candy. If you're not, turn the fuckers off.
Right. And that's really just it really was disappointing. It happened a number of times.
And it's weird that that's an issue because that has literally been the rule since I was 5 years old and trick or treating, which was I don't know. Well, it was definitely last century. Long time ago. And people still don't seem to know this.
Nope. So but overall it was okay. It was a good little night. Didn't see any amazing costumes this year.
I saw some really good ones online, like our group of friends. But then again, we're all LARPers and
right,
all cosplayers and crafters, so it's par for the course.
Here, look at me in my 100% authentic Star Trek uniform.
Yeah,
it's amazing. It really is.
Yes, my shoes are made of tribble leather.
But yeah, we did do a special stream on Halloween for celebration because our Twitch channel did get affiliate status, which is great. So
I'm so sad. I'm so sad I couldn't play it with you in costume either because I had to run my own D&D game.
Well, we're thinking of some other. We've pitched around some other ideas, and once we get those finalized, we can share them. But Baldur Plays may come back again.
It'll be back. It'll be back with 100% more chair.
He did break my chair, that bastard. But we're gonna go back to the normal D&D stream on Saturday. So we're hoping everyone comes back after that. There's nothing else planned for this week. We're just going to focus on getting the D&D stream working as best as possible.
And knowing us, we'll stream a little bit throughout the week. We got to figure out an actual set schedule. So anyone who follows us on Twitch, just pay attention for that.
Yep. Then we did pretty good. A lot of followers. We're at like 70 followers now.
And yeah, I mean, we've really only been working at this thing for a month, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and very few streams to get to that. So I'm happy with it.
And I definitely want to do another D&D stream too. Probably something with like newer folks, or maybe just do Adventures League. Something like that. Because a lot of the cool stories I have come from Adventures League. It's just that I can't go to the store and do it because of the current situation in the world.
Thanks, coronavirus.
So once I start doing that again, it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, the plan is to expand the channel, hopefully make partner by some point next year.
Twitch.tv/Grumpy Dungeon Masters.
I know. Everybody's already heard it multiple times. I'm pretty sure that you said it like 12 times during one ending of one of the recent podcasts. But
I did.
Yep. Because you're a bastard. So what else are we talking about tonight?
The Tasha's Table of Contents got published online. An article on IGN with Jerry Crawford, your favorite person in the world.
I saw that his name was listed with this. I was very confused. But anyway, that's just me.
There's an interview with him, and they talked about just what was going on with, Tasha's. And if you go to our Facebook page, Grumpy Dungeon Masters on Facebook, you can see the table of contents there.
It's all over the internet.
Yeah, and nothing new really from what we discussed before when we had our Tasha's discussion. A couple changes, a couple things people don't like.
So there are a couple. Well, yeah, go ahead and tell the things that you say people don't like, but there are definitely a couple of things I want to brief over in this thing.
The biggest thing people hate is the fact that the Wildfire Druid lost Fireball as part of its spell list, which kind of makes sense because, like,
whatever. I mean, fucking clerics have Fireball.
Well, that was their point. The point was, hey, we are a druid that is all about setting things on fire.
Yeah.
Our job is basically the fire burns everything. We are the renewal of nature, and you give us every fire spell in the book, but you take away Fireball, which we had in the Unearthed Arcana.
As me as a DM, I'm just going to allow it.
Right, and that's what it is. Every DM is just going to allow that to happen. So why did you take it out? It is the most staple spell, and you built a class around the most staple element.
I mean, who doesn't want a fucking 175 hit point bear dropping fireballs into the enemy? Who doesn't want that? or a fucking great eagle flying over dropping nukes. What could ever go wrong with this?
But still, it's like, why did you get rid of it? Like, it had it, no one complained about it, everyone liked it, and then you took it out for what, balance reasons?
Yeah.
The most overpowered spell in the game for its level. You just took it out for balance.
Now that all that being said, have they released a final Circle of Wildfire? Because I haven't seen a finalized one. Like
it's in Tasha's, and it was mentioned that they took out Fireball.
Well, until I see the final book, or a because I have not seen a finalized version of this class. I have seen a finalized version of a couple of them, but that is not one of them. So I mean, yeah, I'm not saying they
talked about in the article.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'm not saying it wasn't removed, but I just like to have the final versions of shit in my hands before I complain about them. That's why I'm not complaining about removed content from Cyberpunk 2077, because I haven't seen the fucking game yet. There's no removed content until it's released. But anyway, I digress very easily.
So the Light Cleric and the Fiend Warlock have Fireball. It's really weird that the Wild Circle Wildfire Druid doesn't have Fireball. And if it does have Fireball, and it was just a misunderstanding or mistype, then okay, cool. That is the biggest gripe that I've seen online currently.
I mean, if that's it, that's pretty good. So a couple of things that I wanted to briefly go over that I am a fan of, and it's the first couple of things in the table of contents: changing a skill and changing your subclass. Uh, these have been needed for a while. I don't think changing a skill should be a thing, but I think that adding a new skill, learning a new skill, should be a lot easier than it is in Xanathars. So maybe the changing a skill thing will sort of help with that. Like to learn a new skill in Dungeons and Dragons, most campaigns I run, the overall storyline time is 6 months, a year maybe. Like if you're running Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden, how long does that thing even last? From first level to 12th level is a couple of months maybe, which doesn't give you enough time to learn a new skill as a character. It just doesn't, because you need 200 days or some shit like that to learn a new skill. So there needs to be an alteration to that, or the written campaigns need to be extended in timeline for years.
I honestly haven't had that problem come up that much, where people need to have a skill or learn a skill.
I don't think
And
it's a problem so much but just players want their characters to grow as people, you
isn't
know?
there a feat that gives you new skills?
Yeah, you could take that, I mean, I guess if that's what you want. I've done it before with a character. I can't remember what it's called. I think
I mean,
skilled. It's skilled gives you like 2 or 3 extra feats, or
that's
it's
where
extra
I would go
skilled.
to get the extra feats, because I don't
Yeah,
know.
but it's just weird that Xanathars gives you a route to learn new tools and new skills, but it just takes so long to do it, and most campaigns in game time just don't last that long.
Look at us currently here. We started a podcast in what, August. We
Hmm.
had to build a website in August. We wrote an adventure. We've put together online streams, and we're streaming, and all of this, like, these skill sets, we're taking from our experiences. Well, we're not skilled in this at all, for any shadow of a doubt. We're still getting better, so I can kind of see, like, it taking, you know half a year or a
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
And
It's a complicated situation. I mean, how long should an in-game campaign really last? Yeah,
I mean, I think it depends on the skill. Like, if you're talking about history, good luck. If you're talking about intimidation, I don't know what kind of intimidation you're trying to get for your character. You
yeah.
know,
This is a conversation I think we'll have on the next podcast. Just sort of weird rules in Dungeons and Dragons, because yeah, some of the skills just they really and truly don't make sense. I mean, intimidation, sure, you could probably train it, but some people are just fucking born with it. So
it also depends on kind of like the if you're letting people use athletics for intimidation, stuff like that. I think a lot of that, and bringing in other checks to get the same result, would be better than having someone learn a new skill. So, like, if you're an orc and you want to intimidate someone physically,
mhm.
you shouldn't be using charisma. You should be using strength.
Right.
And
But
then,
if you're threatening to chop up some individual's dog and feed it to them, that might be a charisma check.
right. But so when it comes to history, you know, if you want to know the history of, let's say, Waterdeep, and you're a citizen of Waterdeep, and you've been there all your life, sure. I mean, the DM should allow a better role to that. I mean, you shouldn't have to train that as a skill. You shouldn't have to take a feat for that.
And honestly, I think it's just Dungeons and Dragons 5e. It's a simplification of the system. The system is just super simplified. It doesn't want to go into all those levels of detail.
Right, and the underwater basket weaving comment is always popping into my head.
Yep.
I need to be proficient in weaving baskets while underwater. Okay,
Hey, what do you even roll for that? Probably I would make him just do a dexterity check.
survival.
Yeah, okay, survival. Yeah, because I guess weaving a basket would be survival, but collecting the parts to make a basket would be nature, possibly survival.
The birds.
Anyway,
Ugh.
yeah. Yeah, the
I don't.
birds.
I mean, I think a lot of people complain about those things, and they just don't. Because they just want to put thought into it. Or they just want to
Mhm.
have a reaction to it and not think about how to make it work. Yeah, that's my two
Uh,
cents.
the the other one is the changing your subclass. I'm glad that they're adding this into Tasha's because I'm running Rime of the Frost Maiden, and as soon as this book drops in a few weeks, some of my players might want to change subclasses. I can't blame them because now they have access to, I don't know, what, 22, 24 new possible things. So this
I
might give us the ability to actually make that happen.
I don't like it for Frost Maiden because Frost Maiden takes place at the end of fourth edition, dawn of fifth edition. I don't like using Tasha's for that book. Not even really what I like to use Xanathar's, but that's been out for so long.
Hmm.
Because I picture Tasha as progression of time in the world, and these new things have occurred or come back or are now, surfacing in the Fey run as a whole. That's kind of how I see it. So to
Okay.
have the warlock, the genie warlock, just appear in Icewind Dale, it's kind of like that's really weird. That didn't exist until much later. But then again, it's just kind of also like once it's out for a little while, then anyone do it. I
I
mean,
mean,
it's gonna be very all the subclasses there are much better and more overpowered than previous ones.
maybe.
Uh,
I mean, we haven't seen enough of them to say that for sure.
the genie one is far better than most other warlock subclasses.
Yeah, I have looked at it. I didn't really think it was any more powerful, but once again, I haven't played it.
Hey,
Uh,
you're a warlock. You get wish now. Okay.
yeah, well, yeah, but Wish is kind of a garbage spell. Plus, that you don't get that until like 17th level. So
But once it's out for a little while, like after a year or two, and it's kind of settled in its place, then sure. There's a couple, and then like I would probably let people do like Blade Singer,
because
like it's
that's been around forever.
that's been around forever.
A
So
lot of these are they're sort of recreations of some third edition uh, prestige classes. Like all of the Psy characters were in third edition. The Soul Knife, the Psy Warrior, those are just third edition ones they've pulled up. So they've been around forever too.
yeah, I'm
Uh,
sad they didn't actually make a psionic class. I guess they have reasons why I don't like scions, but
yeah, I was always I like psionics, but I also hate psionics. It's one of those things where I love the idea behind it, but one, I don't know that it fits a fantasy campaign setting, and two, I've just run into so many problems with psionics over the years. People not knowing how it works and then wanting to play it, and part of my problem too is I come from second edition, and psionics was very, very different from magic in second edition. Like it had its own book, and none of it was the same. It did not translate as spells. It was not spell magic. So I ran into a lot of problems with it in second ed, and then third edition. People didn't understand that you needed to treat it just like a spell, even though it wasn't a spell. So there was a lot of confusion there. Fourth edition, I don't know.
fourth edition just had it as it was a class. It was introduced in Dark Sun,
Yeah,
and
well, Dark Sun, yeah,
it
yeah.
was treated just like magic.
Okay, everything in second edition Dark Sun, second edition D&D is when Dark Sun came out, but everything in Dark Sun had at least a minimal amount of psionics.
So anything, if I remember correctly, in fourth edition, anything that had like telekinesis or telepathy, it was all considered psionics.
Hmm.
So Jean Grey, Professor X, those characters would be psionic characters,
That's correct. Yeah.
and so it's treated like magic in like how it's cast and how it works, and they have psion points or something like that. And overall, that's just how it worked. It kind of worked just like magic. Instead of being arcane, it was psionic, or it was telekinesis, or some other T word. and it worked fine. It wasn't anything special. All the flavor spells with moving things with your mind, or hitting people in the mind with your mind, or
Mhm.
mind probing people was all in that class, and a little bit carryover in flavor other places, but that was about it.
Yeah, see, like in second edition, and mind you, this has been so many years since I've really looked at this stuff, so I might just be off. But if I recall correctly, there were different things you could sort of focus on with your psionics. Everybody had sort of your basic stuff, the telepathy type things, and but then you could also focus into pyrokinesis or the variants of transmutation that you could do upon yourself using telekinesis and so forth. It was kind of neat, and I really liked it, but there was so much to it, and I just never really got to delve enough into it, even though I owned
Mhm.
the book, and I never played any of the Sonic classes back then, other than with the Dark Sun stuff.
Right. I really like how it works in fifth edition. I like the mechanic a lot, so I'll be using that for creating some cool Scion classes and kind of doubling down on it
So you're
as a
you're not
whole.
you're not you're not planning on letting your players access this book for Icewind Dale?
If they come to me with a very super creative reason as to why their character would have something in Tasha's, I will allow it. But the first, their character's going to have to die.
Okay, so you might allow a new character to pick up stuff from it if there's a good reason
if
for it.
if I had a guy that wanted to be a blade singer or whatever, and after for another character, then yeah, I'd let him. Things
Yeah,
like that.
but you're not going to allow them the changing your subclass portion of it for the current characters they're already playing.
No, no, I don't think
Okay.
changing subclasses should be a thing a character should do.
Yeah, I want to read more about it. I don't know for sure that I will agree with it. I just like the fact that they are adding it. Uh, it the only changing of subclasses that I ever recall was paladins losing their paladinhood and being able to change basically to a fighter type or a fallen paladin. But otherwise,
Yeah,
all throughout, second, third editions, like I don't really recall that ever being a thing. It is sort of video gaming it, I guess. Oh,
yeah,
you don't like how you spent your points for this character. Why don't you just get all your points back and redo it?
yeah. I mean, again, if you're playing a character you don't like, I don't want that to happen.
Yeah,
So let's just make a new character.
yeah. All
So
of my players just got to third level in Rime of the Frost Maiden, so they had to pick their subclasses, as it were. Um, Honestly, I don't even remember what most of them went. We have an Evoker, Wizard, the not Eloquence, the Bard one. Whatever one of the talky ones from Xanathar. Fucking bards. Barbarian is the Storm, or not the Storm Bear. God, I'm so bad at remembering the archetypes. The one that gets ice, wind, or fire. Maybe it is Storm Barbarian.
yeah, I
Anyway,
don't know.
yeah,
Uh,
I could pull
So
the fucking book out, but I'm lazy and I'm not going to do that.
so funny thing about leveling, I needed them to basically finish a quest at the very beginning of the session last time we had it.
Uh,
And then during the break, we were going to basically level up to level 2, and then we are going to go on to the next quest. I didn't remember to do the level up until they are at the big bad at the end of the following quest.
oh,
So right before right before they're doing the big bad last part at the very bottom of the little dungeon, I'm like, oh shit, you should be level 2. Why don't you level up to level 2 real quick? It should be simple. Uh,
so all of those previous fights that they had getting to that guy could have been done a little bit easier. Good job there. um, my players, we always have a tendency to level up. We do it at end of game sessions. Pretty rare where you get enough adventures in to get a level.
yeah. Yeah, they're gonna it's what, 2 quest completions to get to 3, so
Yeah, so
they
basically,
finished.
yeah, you get to level 2 after you complete the first quest, and then 2 more quests you get to level 3, and then 2 more quests you get to level 4.
Depending on what they do, they should be 3 at the end of the next session, I think.
Yeah. Well, if they've already done 2 quests, as long as they complete another
Well,
one.
they really haven't completed the second quest yet.
Oh, okay.
They dealt with the issue, and then we had to call it for the night.
Gotcha.
So once they finish dealing with that issue, they will, if they survive, they will probably go into the next quest. And given where they are, they're going to go to probably one of the close by towns, and those quests are pretty easy, so there'll be 3.
I'm pretty certain that my players are going to reach level 4, assuming they live next game
Yeah,
session. They're almost to the point where they actually really get to start going out, looking around Icewind Dale. Can't really say more than that.
right. I still see a lot of people complaining about Chapter 4, and my advice to them, if by chance any of them are listening, is just do it by the book.
Yeah.
Stop. All of your concerns are. I had them as well when I first read it, but upon reflection and talking with people who know the lore of Icewind Dale like the back of my hand, it doesn't matter. It happens all the time. Just let it go. Just let it happen. It's
Yep.
not that big of a deal.
Yeah. Having looked over, yeah, just fucking do it. It's storytelling, man. Suck it up, Buttercup.
Right. So,
So
yeah,
yeah.
other than that, things are going good.
uh,
I'm
So
looking forward to Tasha's, and I'm going to buy the digital book. I'm not going to buy the actual physical copy book
I'll buy the
because,
physical copy. Is probably a week late as usual, but I'll be getting it.
so we'll see what happens. They have a bunch of cool spells too, but I didn't really kind of go through
Oh,
them a lot.
the biggest ones that I'm interested in. So there's a handful of spells I personally want to see that are in here. I'm glad they finally added the Black Blade of Disaster back into the game, because that always should have been in the player's handbook. They added a whole bunch of summon spells of different stuff. Aberration
Wait!
Beast.
You can't just mention Black Blade of Disaster and just move on.
Why not?
What the hell is it?
You don't know what Black Blade of Disaster is?
No.
Basically, oh my god, my brain just died on me. What is the
Putting you on the spot.
yeah, oh no, okay, so it's a sword made out of a sphere of annihilation.
Okay.
I'm surprised you don't know this. Yeah, so Black Blade of Disaster, you basically summon up a sphere of annihilation that's shaped like a sword, and you can make attacks with it, and it deals ridiculous amounts of damage. In third edition, the spell was 8th level, I think. 9th level is really freaking high level. But yeah, it was a badass spell. Mind you, they changed the name. It was Black Blade of Disaster. Now it's just Blade of Disaster. I don't know. But Black Blade of Disaster to me, damn it. Just like Pluto is still a planet. So the other spells that I am personally interested in seeing is the 3 Tasha's spells that they've added. There's Tasha's Caustic Brew, Tasha's Mind Whip, and Tasha's Otherworldly Guise. I haven't got a clue what any of these are, and I'm really curious to see them.
Okay.
But yeah, that's my take on it.
I'm reading up on the Black Blade of Disaster, or Blade of
Oh,
Disaster for 5e.
okay.
It does not sound as cool as what you're making it out to be.
Look, for all I know, they made it a first level spell.
Okay. So this is, I guess they leaked it. So this is supposedly what it is. Okay.
All right.
Blade of Disaster 5e. 9th level conjuration, casting time 1 bonus action, range is 60 feet, verbal and somatic component, concentration up to a minute. You create a blade-shaped planar rift about 3 feet long in an unoccupied space that you can see within range. The blade lasts for the duration. When you cast a spell, you can make up to 2 melee attacks with the blade, each one against a creature, loose object, or structure within 5 feet of the blade. On a hit, the target takes 4d12 force damage. This attack scores a critical hit if the number of the d20 is 18 or higher. On a critical hit, the blade deals an extra 8d12 force damage for a total of 12d12 force damage. On a bonus action on your turn, you can move the blade up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see, and make 2 melee spell attacks with it again. The blade can harmlessly pass through any barrier, including a wall of force.
I
Nowhere
don't.
in that description is it made from a sphere of annihilation.
Yeah, well,
And
it was all.
just
It was effectively a sphere of annihilation. I mean, they said it's a planar rift. That's all a sphere of annihilation is. Whether
right.
whether or not the description is exactly the same, that is still a badass spell. It's cast as a bonus action, and it deals 4d12 damage with 2 attacks. So just assuming you hit with both attacks, your average damage is going to be 48, or give or take.
Yeah.
I'm not a fucking math guy. You know this, but it's right around that number. So that's pretty decent fucking damage. Then if you land a critical, my god, that's a lot of damage.
Actually, if it 40-12, so yeah, 8 times 6.5, 52 damage
Okay,
average.
so that's pretty good. Even as a 9th level spell, that's pretty good.
Eh, yeah, maybe. If I was a blade singer, I'd definitely have it. As a
I don't.
fighter, I'll just hit with my weapon.
Well,
Not
it's
sure if
not.
that's.
It's not a fighter spell. Man, this thing is. It's a wizard spell or sorcerer. It's those guys. Fighters. Yeah, you're a fighter. Just swing your damn sword. Do it. By the point you're casting Black Blade of Disaster, you already have 4 attacks around anyway.
Right, so I'll keep that.
Yeah.
I thought Green Flame Blade was already in the game.
So Booming Blade and Green Flame Blade, I have seen them used in my own campaign.
Right.
The Hobtown campaign, we had the fighter, whatever the spellcasting fighter is, and he had Booming Blade and Green Flame Blade. So I just assumed these were already printed and out.
Oh, they nerfed them.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay. What book were they in before? Was it
The
Xanathar's?
base book. The base book.
They were in the player's handbook? Yep.
As part of the action used to cast a spell, you must make a melee attack with the weapon against one creature within the spell's range, otherwise the spell fails. On a hit, the target suffers the attack's normal effects and becomes sheathed in booming energy until the start of your next turn.
A Booming Blade is not in the primary player's handbook.
If the target willingly moves before then, it immediately takes 1d8 thunder damage and the spell ends. The damage increases when you reach higher levels at 5th level, 1d8, blah blah blah. But on
That's
Tasha's, the range of the spell is changed to self, which may seem like a minor change, but actually carries fairly substantive implications. Booming Blade and Green Flame Blade are an important part of the engine behind most of the Gish builds in D&D. If you don't know what that word means, I envy you. But to clear things up, a
I
Gish
don't.
is an old school D&D term for fighter/mage, and the change takes away one of the best tools in the sorcerer's arsenal. After all, right now the sorcerer makes bits sword mage because it can previously use twin spell to cast booming blade on multiple targets, and also means
Yes. Yeah.
you can't use it with reach weapons anymore, and potentially with warcaster. I imagine that there'll be a Sage of Ice question about this new spell soon.
I'm actually going to
Oh,
have to ask my player where the hell he got those spells from. I never looked. He was using them, and I just allowed it. But they are not in Xanathar's or the player's handbook.
I thought it was.
No, I just pulled out both books and went through them. Neither Booming Blade or Green Flame Blade are in there.
Sword Coast Adventures Guide.
Okay. If they were in there, I would have allowed it because that was fine. I allowed everything except for the races in there, so.
It's a staple spell. I'm pretty sure. That's why I was like sure it was
Yeah.
core.
They were never broken. Like, he did good damage with them, but it wasn't any more than a normal fighter could do, so. It was nice that he could do different types of damage and that he could do it to multiple creatures.
Yes, looking at Green Flame Blade, it's one creature within the spell's range, and now it's yeah, it takes out that verbiage.
Oh well.
I didn't even think about using it that way. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's still fine.
So lightning lure probably also got nerfed that same way.
I've never even heard of that spell.
You hit somebody with lightning and pull them in.
Oh, okay. Kind of like the Warlock's Eldritch Blast if you get the right thing with it. Hmm.
Yeah, a bunch of nerfs.
I generally hate when they have to nerf stuff, but a lot of times I still think things should be nerfed. Like fighters. Fighters should be nerfed.
I know I mentioned before, but the cleric spell in fourth edition.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That
Uh, so
was so overpowered.
the other big thing that I think we wanted to go over was them bringing in Magic the Gathering into official Dungeons and Dragons lore.
So the things that they confirmed, well, so they've released a number of different campaign settings that are Magic the Gathering campaign settings. Theros and Ravinica being the two books that they actually put out.
Right, but those up until now have always been Magic the Gathering only. They were separate. They were not part of Forgotten Realms. They were not tied to Dragonlance. Spelljammer had no effect on them.
Right. So next year, one of I think it was a core set of Magic the Gathering is coming out with a Dungeons and Dragons themed core set.
Mhm.
So Planeswalkers showing up there and stuff like that. And in the inverse, they're having NPCs from Theros and races from Theros show up in a number of the current games that they have. Now, well, granted, if you're playing Idle Adventure, whatever the D&D Idle
Yeah,
game is,
Idle Champions, I
Idle
think.
Champions, yeah. Um, that's not an official core canon thing, but at the same time, they're bringing in the Theros cat race into that game.
Yeah, I read the little blurb that you sent to me.
So it's interesting that they're kind of blurring that line between the Magic the Gathering campaign settings and actual campaign settings. And there's been this like idle rumor throughout all of Reddit forums and the internet and IGN and all the people that I listen to that talk about Dungeons and Dragons, where the next couple books are all going to be Spelljammer, Planescape related books, and they're going to officially bring in all the Magic the Gathering settings. So all that is hearsay, and that's answers and ideas brought on from speculation.
Yeah, it's specifically because of the Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms, which is a video game. Uh,
Right.
but them tying in, I'm drawing a blank on the cat people's name at the moment, but yeah, tying them in with that into the Forgotten Realms opens up the possibilities of the Magic the Gathering characters, specifically, the Planeswalkers, Jace, Chandra, Liliana, and all of them making appearances in Forgotten Realms, which is a pretty big deal. And I'm honestly a little surprised it took them this long to do that. They've been they've slowly been sort of blending the two. Now I know, like last podcast, I was thinking it was a horrible plan, but I had a little more time to think about it, and I don't. Magic and D&D, they always were sort of competitors with each other, but that has been a long time ago. And now that Wizards has owned it for so long, the blending of it just seems like a natural fit. Yeah, they probably should do that.
I mean, on one hand, I don't care what they do because
It's their product.
it's their product. Faerun's going to be a separate world, and there's already a bunch of crazy stuff happening in it. So adding in more crazy in the bucket of crazy is not going to make it any more crazy. It's just going to be a bucket of crazy.
Yeah.
So if you want to keep, from a business perspective, if you're crunching the numbers, and I'm sure they have and they are, it's probably the right move to make. Getting more people involved in other people's products. Get the D&D players buying Magic cards, get the
So getting the Magic players to buy D&D.
right. So I actually think it's probably more get the D&D players buying Magic cards because D&D, for all intents and purposes, is a fairly cheap game.
I don't know
You
many
get
I don't know a lot of D&D players who don't already play Magic.
right, but I know a lot of Magic players that don't play D&D.
I know a lot of Magic players who don't play D&D.
But I don't see any value in them like, oh well, if we put out this Magic the Gathering book in D&D, then we're going to get all these people who've never played D&D to buy this book, and we're going to make all this money off this book. Well, Theros was a good selling book, and a lot of people love it and still play it. I don't know why people like Theros. It just
Theros I didn't care about. Like I never bought that book, but Ravnica I was all about that one when that one was released. I tried running a campaign on it, and I mean the information they dropped in there was useful. The whole book is really well done. It's really useful. I just got burned out very quickly on the campaign. You know, it was a city-based campaign, and I always have a rough time putting those together because there's so much intrigue and things that go on in a city.
so if you have a table of 6, including a DM, you have one person. Let's just say everybody buys the player's handbook. The DM buys the Monsters Manual, the Player's Handbook, the DMG, and Theros. Okay, so that's 4 books for him, and then 5 others, so 9. Okay, so let's say they buy Xanathars, make it easy 10 because I can't math. So that's that they bought 10 books to play Magic the Gathering in D&D. It's $500. There's no money there.
Oh, okay. No, look, there's definitely a lot more money in Magic the
But
Gathering.
getting D&D players like, wow, we played Theros and it was awesome. Oh, there's a Theros booster box here, $100 a piece, $130 a piece.
Yeah.
Let's all do that. Oh, now I got to buy this box set. Oh, the core set comes out next month. Oh, here's just my paycheck and my next paycheck because now I'm addicted to the game.
And here's the smart part of it. Even for the people who don't ever play Magic the Gathering, they are going to see that they are dropping a Forgotten Realms Magic the Gathering set. And at that
Right.
point, those people are going to be like, well, I have to have the whole set. And there are absolutely a lot of people like that. So then you go out and start, you have to buy a couple of boxes, and then you have to do all the trading and the
Right.
secondary market and everything. Yeah, like the whole thing just seems like a win-win no matter which way they're trying to pull it.
But I definitely think they're trying to pull it towards get D&D people to Magic because that seems to be
Probably.
the way to make money.
Yeah, there's absolutely more money there to be made. I don't think they will pull D&D players that way unless they release a very specific, Forgotten Realm set or a Dark Sun set. Like it has to be a set about a setting from Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, the D&D set is, I think, just going to be Faerun.
Yeah, obviously.
And I can't talk about that. Crap. So there's a very certain character that is the forefront character of D&D, and it just so happens to be in a current extra planar dimension area. And I think he'll be the first. If they were going to do it, he would be the first planeswalker.
Oh, I know
From
exactly what it is.
Faerun.
No,
to,
Elminster 100% is the first planeswalker. 100%. Yes, because he's already a planeswalker.
Okay, if you were running this campaign setting, you're trying to sell people from D&D to buy Magic cards.
Mhm.
Are you going to use Elminster or this other thing?
If they do a planeswalker, honestly, they're going to have multiples. It's going to just be all of the famous characters.
Right.
It's going to be Drizzt, it's going to be Volo, it's going to be Elminster, it's going to be Kelvin Arunson.
Elminster will be in there, but he won't be the one that they are selling it around.
Drizzt will be.
I'm not going to say who I'm thinking of on the top of my head because, like I said, you and I revealed too much of their current status. So they would definitely focus all around them. So overall, it's going to be interesting. I want to buy Magic cards again. I want to play Magic. Again, I do not want to spend any money on Magic ever again.
Yeah, I'm
So
always I am a Magic player. I always have been a Magic player until quarantine is over with. I will spend no money on Magic because I can't play the game. Anyway, um, so you were able to stream Baldur's Gate 3 the other night, or excuse me, Thaladred. Thaladred was able to stream Baldur's Gate 3 the other night. What did Thaladred think about Baldur's Gate 3?
he enjoyed it. He enjoyed a couple things. You can go to our Facebook page and you can see a couple clips of things that he did that he found very enjoyable.
Eating dwarves.
Yeeting doors off a flying spaceship was a highlight of his night.
That was my favorite. That was my favorite clip.
He definitely would come back and play it again. Like I said, overall he enjoyed it, and I think from watching him play the game, it looks like it's enjoyable. The camera is wonky, like you can't pitch it, but you can just move it left or right.
I couldn't believe that you had never played the original Baldur's Gate games. I thought you had.
I'm a Diablo boy.
Yeah. Well, Diablo, you can't really pitch the camera either, so.
You don't need to. Everything's locked to an isometric view.
Yeah.
But you can't move up and down in that game. Okay. In Baldur's Gate 3, from when I was watching Thaladred play, there was plenty of like jumping up terrain and jumping down terrain.
Yes, there is.
And so all you could do is like angle the camera weirdly so like it automatically moved up to let you see what was around, so you can jump up or do whatever.
You can zoom in and out, and you can rotate the camera, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's better than it was in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. You couldn't even rotate those cameras, if I recall. Although I say that, it's been 30 years since I played those games. But yeah, either way, the controls, the camera is definitely still better than that was.
Which is really weird. Like, there's definitely art assets that are there, so I don't understand why they're locking it.
I don't know. It's probably just what people expect. General, I mean, you can zoom out far enough to see down onto everything, but sometimes it gets a little. There were definitely some points where it got a little wonky. Mind you, this is still beta, so
it feels like it's alpha.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. I mean, the game played very smoothly. Alpha, we'd have all sorts of problems.
Well, when I was installing it, there were all sorts of problems. It crashed, and I had to reinstall it like twice.
All right. Well, I had a smooth ride, I guess. Worked beautifully for me.
And there were a lot of graphic issues as well too.
Yeah, there's still plenty of graphical bugs.
Shading problems.
I have one where I did a disguise self on myself, and then I went into inventory and I had a dwarf on top of a dark elf because I was playing a dark elf and shape changed into a dwarf. It was really weird. I actually have a video clip of it I'll put up at some point.
Overall, it looks fun, and having him back to play it some more would be entertaining if people want that to happen. Just kind of get some feedback from the people who listen to the podcast and watch our stuff. What are they enjoying? What are they not enjoying? And help us make some plans.
And one thing we're going to do more often, and this is the last thing I have to go over tonight, and we posted this question to people online and got a little bit of feedback. Do you have the question handy? If not, we'll have to dig up the exact question that was asked.
Well, I'll just go to our Facebook page where we posted it, and I'll read it to you.
I'll let you do that because I'm lazy.
Probably cut this out. Christ, wasn't that long ago.
And even I will point out right now, even if I agree with what they posted, I'm still going to disagree on this podcast because I told them I would.
No, you gotta do what's true. So the question posed was, at what point does the spell Animate Dead get replaced with Animate Object? Like if I had a deer head mounted on my wall, what spell works on that deer head? Object or dead? What about piano that has keys made of ivory? what spell works on making those keys move? Now, people focus just on those two examples, which I think
Yeah.
is wrong. So let's 2 different examples. Let's just say you have a monkey's paw, okay,
Hmm.
and you had a mummified
Go with a shrunken head.
a mummified piranha fish. Because when I was a child, and I was going to church, and I had a pastor, the pastor of my church had an actual piranha fish on his table right in front of him, and like it was like just barely coated with like a sealing agent around it. Like you could still kind of like move it and stuff. It was really fucking weird, but it was a real piranha fish.
Hmm.
Okay, obviously dead, but preserved. So mummified piranha fish, and
I would like to point out I have a cousin that when he was young actually had 2 piranha in a, in a tank. Very illegal, not supposed to have them, but this was back in the 70s. So, 70s,
so
80s.
so with these 2 new examples, the piranha fish and the monkey's paw, both objects, but both mummified remains of a dead creature.
My personal opinion, I would say yes, they both work.
So why do you disagree with that off the stream?
I don't follow. What do you mean?
You said you were going to say it one way because your players are making you do it that way.
Oh no! Like I when I responded about this, when I posted about it, my response, my question was, I asked them the question, and then I asked for feedback, and basically I was telling them, I'm going to tell you guys why you're wrong on whatever you post. So I'm just going to disagree with whatever they said. But that was my initial plan, just to be a dick.
So you say that both spells will work on animating
On a monkey's paw and on a not goldfish, but on a piranha, like you were talking about. Yeah, I would say both work because the piranha is already coated, like you had said, and at the same time, it is still a dead animal. Monkey's paw, monkey's paw, the animate object probably would not work. The animate dead, I would allow.
Okay, so you're saying both would work on
The
piranha.
fish, yeah.
All right, so here's the follow-up question, the special extra follow-up question just for DMs
Ooh,
only.
fancy.
Which spell overrides which? Say I'm animating with object, and someone else casts animate dead on it. What happens?
Well, that's a tough one. I probably would go with just the animate dead as the overriding spell.
Okay.
I don't have a good reason per se why, but that's most likely how I would rule it. Because I am the fucking DM and I get to make that decision. Remember, as a DM in your campaign, you are God.
Yeah, we should definitely have that discussion sometime soon.
About how players never overrule you.
How to play God correctly.
Yeah. Well, I think we've had that discussion lots of times. It's generally the entire point of this podcast: how to be a good dungeon master. If you never want to railroad your players, you don't ever want to beat them down, but at the same time, you have to maintain control of the entirety of your game.
So more focused on how do you maintain control when you state something is this way, and then the player goes, "No, bees work this way." I may just maybe focus on that, like how to handle and diffuse that situation.
We
In
could have
depth.
we can have that conversation. Yeah, we've briefed on it for sure, but we could have a much more in-depth conversation. Maybe we'll talk about that with a guest. We'll see if we can get Mr. Kevin back on here.
Yeah. I'll
I
just
know.
kill him.
Yeah,
There's your answer. Podcast done.
he means kill the player, not the character, just the player.
The actual player.
Yes, the actual
Strangle
player.
them.
Yeah. I don't think chokeholds are legal.
Bro. All
Uh,
right. Well, that's it. Thanks everyone for watching.
yep. Yeah, definitely. Thank you all for watching the podcast.
I told you I was exhausted.
We are on YouTube, however, so technically you could watch it.
Just stare at a logo for like
Yep.
45 minutes.
Yep. Anyway, thanks for listening. Bye, Craig.
Goodbye.